Okay, this lesson is the verb avoir. Avoir. It's an irregular verb. It means to have. You can see that AV in there. That'll help you to remember this one. Avoir, to have. And it is irregular in all of its forms. And so just like être, when you had to memorize the forms of être, you will have to work on memorizing the forms of avoir. So please, replay this video, practice on your own time, listen to the pronunciations, and just do what you can to use the verb on a regular basis in order to kind of just assimilate it and acquire it into your vocabulary. All right? We use the same subject pronouns that we use with all of our verbs, and so I'm going to start with je as the first subject pronoun. The verb is conjugated j'ai. J'ai. If I want to say I have a pencil, for example, j'ai un crayon. J'ai un crayon. Tu is pronounced tu as. I don't pronounce that S on the end. Tu as un crayon. You have a pencil. Il a, elle a, on a. Remember, on is used when you're describing a kind of an anonymous group of people, that someone out there that we don't name specifically. Il a, elle a, on a. He has, she has, we have, you have, they have. On can be conjugated or translated in any one of those ways. If I want to say Léon, he has a pencil. Léon, whoops, sorry. Léon, il a un crayon. If I want to say that Sophie has a crayon or a pencil, Sophie a un crayon. Elle a un crayon. If I want to just make a general statement about all the students in the class having a pencil, on a un crayon. Tous les élèves ont un crayon. On a un crayon pour la classe. We have a pencil for class. Okay, moving to the plural forms. Nous avons. Nous avons. Again, I don't pronounce the S. Nous avons. Nous avons une bonne classe. We have a good class. Vous. Vous avez, don't pronounce that Z on the end. Vous avez, you have. Vous avez un livre. You have a book. Ils ont, pronounce that with a Z sound so it doesn't get mixed up with the être verb ils sont, all right? Ils ont, elles ont. Ils ont, elles ont. They have. Les chiens, the dogs, ils ont une maison. They have a house. Elles ont, les filles, the girls, ont un chien. The girls have a dog. All right? So, once again, pronunciation. J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, on a, nous avons, vous avez, ils ont, elles ont. So now let's compare être and avoir. Être, the verb you've learned already this year, the verb to be, has some similarities to the verb avoir, and it's really important for you to understand those similarities now so that you're not confusing the two of them. You don't want to say I am a pencil when you really mean to say I have a pencil. And you don't want to say I have a boy when you really mean to say I am a boy. So it's important for you to get the pronunciation and the spelling of these two verbs really distinguished in your mind and know when and how to use each one. So again, we're going to use the same subject pronouns that we've been using. Je suis, I am. Je suis, let's see, let's just make everybody intelligent today. Je suis intelligente. And since I'm describing myself, I'm going to make it feminine. Tu es, you are. Tu es. Tu es intelligent. And depending on who I'm talking to, if I want to describe, let's see, Rodolphe, I'm going to make it masculine. And if I want to describe one of the girls in class, tu es intelligente. Catherine. Il est, elle est, on est. Il est, elle est. And please pay attention to how that's pronounced. On est. Il est intelligent. Elle est intelligente. On est, meaning all of us in class, on est intelligent, n'est-ce pas? Oop. Nous sommes, we are. Nous sommes intelligents, and I can pronounce the Z sound in there. Since we're a mixed group, I'm going to make this masculine and plural. Vous êtes. Vous êtes. You are, plural or formal. Vous êtes intelligent. And then the plural forms ils sont and elles sont, and keep that pronunciation in mind because that distinguishes it from the avoir verb. Ils sont, elles sont, ils sont intelligents, plural, elles sont intelligentes, feminine and plural. So take a look at some of the similarities with the verb avoir. Tu es. Tu es is the verb être. Tu as, as, is the verb avoir. Il est, elle est, on est, the verb être. Il a, elle a, on a, the verb avoir. So you can see how pronunciation is really going to become important here. Right? And then finally the plural form, ils sont, elles sont, the verb être, ils ont, elles ont, the verb avoir. Okay, so let's talk about this pronunciation a little bit more with the verb avoir, since that's the one we're really focusing on right now. You have what's called liaison. Liaison, it's a word you'll hear me mention, but you don't necessarily have to memorize this as a term. Just know what it is when you hear the word liaison. Liaison is when you pronounce the consonant sound at the end of one word and kind of drag it into the vowel sound at the beginning of the next verb, and that happens quite frequently. In the verb avoir, you're going to have liaison with the subject pronoun on, right? Listen to that again, on. You hear a nasal pronunciation of the N, but when I put it together with the verb avoir, you hear on a, on a. And if you pronounce that, you'll feel the difference. You'll feel where your tongue is in your mouth, and you'll hear the different sound. You'll hear the pronunciation of the letter N, on a. So there is liaison between the N and the A. Nous also has liaison with the verb avoir because the conjugation begins with the vowel A. Nous avons. Nous avons. And so the S at the end of nous, which normally isn't pronounced, becomes the pronunciation Z in this case. Nous avons. On a, nous avons. And you can probably guess that vous is going to do the same thing with the verb avoir. Now vous is the pronoun, but because it's in front of the verb avoir, which begins with a vowel, it's pronounced vous avez. Vous avez. And we talked about the other two The plural forms il and el plural, even though I don't normally pronounce the S at the end of those, because the verb avoir conjugated with these two subjects begins with a vowel, the vowel O, then I'm going to pronounce that S at the end of il as a Z. Again, ils ont, and the same rule is true for el plural, elles ont, elles ont. So what happens when you have a negative and you're using the verb avoir? Well, it's going to follow the same rules for negatives that we've learned already. Either I have a pencil or I do not have a pencil. J'ai un crayon. J'ai un crayon. I'm using my indefinite article un because I have a pencil. But if I do not have a pencil, je n'ai pas de crayon. Remember that rule? Je n'ai pas de crayon. What happens in the case of pronunciation when you had liaison or have liaison in the affirmative? Vous avez un crayon, but now you do not have a pencil. Well, the rule for liaison doesn't happen in this case because the S at the end of vous isn't followed by a vowel anymore. It's followed by the consonant N, the negative. Vous n'avez pas de crayon. Vous n'avez pas de crayon. Okay? And then remember also that de isn't the only replacement for un, une, de. You can replace something with the D apostrophe. J'ai une horloge. I have a clock, but I don't have a clock. Je n'ai pas des apostrophe because horloge starts with the vowel sound. Je n'ai pas d'horloge. Okay? So in a negative situation, un, une, des become de or des apostrophe. Negative. I don't have something, you don't have something, they don't have something. Un, une, des become de or des apostrophe, depending on the spelling of the noun. All right? But what happens if I have the pencil? J'ai le crayon. I have the pencil. If I do not have the pencil, that rule is not true anymore because it's only with un, une, des. Je n'ai pas le crayon. I don't have the pencil. So again, be careful that you're not changing things when you don't need to. All right, so un, une, des become de, des apostrophe. Le, la, les don't change. Just leave them le, la, and les as they are. And the negative, le, la, l apostrophe, and les stay the same. No change in a negative. All right, hope that helps. So your textbook gives you a whole bunch of avoir expressions, and you can do any Google search and find all kinds of avoir expressions as well. Lists of them, flashcards to help study them, games and quizzes that you can play to practice them. I'm just going to provide I actually copied this from another website that I just went out there and found, and you can see, I can hardly fit it on the page. Avoir is used with the word an, which means years, to give your age. So in a lot of expressions where we use the verb to be, you'll find out that the French actually use the verb to have, avoir. J'ai 55 ans. I'm 55 years old. Avoir froid, to be cold. Avoir de la fièvre, to be feverish, to have a fever. Avoir chaud, to be hot. Avoir faim, to be hungry. Avoir soif, to be thirsty. Avoir raison, to be right. Avoir tort, to be wrong. Avoir mal, to hurt. Avoir la forme, to feel good. Avoir le cafard, to be depressed. Avoir l'air, to seem. Avoir peur, to be scared. Avoir honte, to be ashamed. And I'm not sure, I have to take a look at the list in your book. Your book probably has some that are different from this, and this is not by any means in the end-all be-all list. There are many, many, many expressions that use the verb avoir, and you will find it quite useful. You'll be using it a lot. All right, looking in your book, we are on à la page 61, page 61, has the list of avoir expressions that you will be using most frequently in class over the next couple of weeks. So let's take a look at those and do some pronunciation of them. The first one on the list is that expression about giving your age. The question, how old are you, is quel âge as-tu, or quel âge avez-vous? Okay, so the question, quel âge avez-vous? How old are you? And the answer would be j'ai, and then you'd plug the number in here. All right, that's what you want to put your number in. A lot of you would answer j'ai 14 ans, j'ai 15 ans, j'ai 16 ans. Maybe some of you even have 17 ans. But you use that word ans at the end to indicate that you're counting how many years you have, how many years old you are. So the expression avoir a certain number, ans. J'ai 14 ans. Tu as 15 ans. Il a 16 ans. Elle a 12 ans. Nous avons 20 ans. Vous avez 31 ans. It really doesn't matter what number you plug in there. Now you'll be able to talk about your friends and family members and give ages. Here's another expression used in your book. Avoir besoin de. Avoir besoin de. O-I-N makes a ouin sound. That's a nice whiny sound, isn't it? Avoir besoin de quelque chose, avoir besoin, to have need of something. So if we go back to the good old crayon example, the pencil, j'ai besoin d'un crayon. Je n'ai pas de crayon. I don't have a pencil. I need a pencil. J'ai besoin de crayon, d'un crayon. All right, again, let me just put that up here. Je n'ai pas, whoops, capital letters. Je n'ai pas de crayon. I don't have a pencil. J'ai besoin d'un crayon. I need a pencil. All right? Avoir besoin de. To be lucky. Avoir de la chance. There are a lot of some other expressions that mean the same thing, to be lucky. Avoir du pot, P-O-T, is another one, but again, focusing on what the textbook is sharing with you, we'll stick with that list. Avoir de la chance, to be lucky. Oh, you won the lottery? You are lucky. Tu as de la chance. What else do we have here? Let's see. Avoir chaud and avoir froid, the two expressions for being hot or cold. Avoir chaud, if you think of it as avoir froid is the one that I always like to remember to keep them straight. Avoir froid, if you think about the FR in froid relating to freezing, the FR in freezing, then you'll be able to keep those two straight. Avoir chaud, to be hot. Avoir froid, to be cold. Avoir chaud, avoir froid. And you just use them like that. J'ai chaud, I'm hot. J'ai froid, I'm cold. All right? The next one on the list in your book is avoir envie de. Avoir envie de means to feel like doing something. All right, continuing, because running out of room on the other page. So continuing with the expressions that are listed in your book, avoir envie de. If you want to explain what you feel like doing, then you're going to use that preposition de, avoir envie de. But if somebody asks you if you feel like seeing a movie and you just want to say, sure, I feel like it, you don't need to use the de, just oui, j'ai envie, all right? Avoir envie de, to feel like doing something. J'ai envie de regarder la télé. J'ai envie de regarder la télé. I feel like watching TV. And take a look at what I've done with the verb regarder. I left it in the infinitive form, all right? Conjugate the verb avoir, use the expression, and keep the verb in the infinitive form. Avoir, again, you can say what you are ashamed of, or you can just say, I'm ashamed. Avoir honte. Spell check. Avoir honte. J'ai honte de mon chien. I'm ashamed of my dog. He runs over to the neighbors and steals their dog's toys. J'ai honte de mon chien. Again, I'm explaining to you exactly what I'm ashamed of, or maybe my dog is feeling a little ashamed himself, and I would explain to you, il a honte. He's ashamed. That's why he's hanging his head and his ears are all laid down. Il a honte. Okay? Another expression, avoir l'air. Avoir l'air means you have the appearance of something. You seem to be feeling a certain way, or you have the appearance of a very successful student. All right? Tu as l'air confus. Maybe you seem confused. You appear to be confused. Tu as l'air confus. Avoir peur de. Avoir peur de. To be afraid of. To have fear of something. Moi, j'ai peur. J'ai peur de l'altitude. Having some typing trouble here. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of the altitude. I'm afraid of heights. Avoir raison. Avoir raison, to be correct, to be right, to have answered a question correctly, to be correct in an argument. Avoir raison, and its opposite is avoir tort. Avoir tort, to be wrong. And then finally, the last one on your list in your book is avoir sommeil. Sorry, got cut off there. Avoir sommeil. Avoir sommeil. To be sleepy. Avoir sommeil. To be sleepy. To have slumber. To be sleepy. Okay. Pendant les vacances. J'ai très sommeil. During the break, during the vacation, I'm very sleepy. J'ai très sommeil. Okay, and then finally, the last point that your book makes for you is the fact that you can give commands using avoir. So if I want to wish you a good weekend, I would tell you, ayez, not ave, but ayez, un bon weekend. Yay, un bon weekend. If you're talking just to a friend, one friend individually, the imperative, the command form is a. Et bon voyage. Have a good trip. And then finally, the only other way that you can give a command or a suggestion is to suggest that you and your a group do something together. So let's ayons une bonne classe. Let's have a good class. Ayons une bonne classe. So you can see the imperative forms, the command forms. Imperative. Have a whole different. They drop the V and M and Y here. Ayez, ayons.